Welcome to the Underrepresented in Tech podcast, where we talk about issues in underrepresentation and have difficult conversations. Underrepresented in Tech is a free database with the goal of helping people find new opportunities in WordPress and tech. Hello, Samah.
Hello, Michelle. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, busy, busy. They have a lot of upcoming events, and I
Yes.
know they have a lot of two amazing events coming up.
Yeah, I have WordCamp Rochester this Saturday in person right here in Rochester, New York. And then next week on Wednesday, Thursday, we have WP Accessibility Day, which is all about online accessibility and 24-hour free event. If people want to know more, go to 2024.wpaccessibility.day to register. It's going to be pretty awesome, and I'm very excited about it. I am the lead organizer or the lead marketing organizer for that event, and that should be pretty cool. I am on vacation for 5 days after that because mama needs a break.
I'm gonna reach out to you just to bother you, just once in a
just
while. Just like
just keep sending me the funny TikToks you send me. I love that. And speaking of TikToks, we are blessed to have a couple of really awesome guests with us today, Rachel Zoller and Joe Foster from Role Mobility app, which I'm pretty excited about because I found them on TikTok. I reached out to them and they actually replied, which I think is pretty awesome. So welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about yourselves, where you're located, and if this isn't your primary job, which I heard a rumor it might not be, maybe what else you do in the world. Rachel, we'll start with you.
Awesome. Well, we're located in Colorado. I actually just left Denver on Saturday to become a nomad for the next 6-ish months with my
nice.
wife. So our first stop is down in Trinidad, Colorado. We're on the New Mexico state line.
Very cool.
So very cool, very exciting, very different. Um, let's see, at full time, I was telling you before we started recording that we do roll full time because we fill it in every single crevice that we have,
We
and
know that
then
we know what that feels like. Yes.
and we moonlight as other people who have to get jobs that pay to keep roofs over our head. Yes.
Absolutely.
So I do some communications for another nonprofit in Denver.
Oh, cool.
And yeah.
And so are you staying in Airbnbs?
Yes, right now we're in Airbnbs until we get back closer to family.
That's
And
cool.
so we can talk about this a little bit later, but I think the Airbnb app needs to be updated so that we understand as wheelchair users, people who have mobility issues, it'll look like it might be, and you have to scour those pictures to see where the steps are because it's always a challenge.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's not even required that they take like a picture of the
Right.
entrance. And I think what we've discovered through some of this already, like looking ahead and booking ahead, is that um, places the hosts have to opt in to list themselves as wheelchair
Right.
accessible. If you use the wheelchair accessible filter, it pretty much annihilates the map,
There's
right?
nothing left.
There's nothing left. But people don't want to opt in, even if they are accessible, because they don't want to be held accountable if like something's off. So
Yeah.
something needs to happen on the Airbnb side too, that's like is educating people with parameters, saying
Hmm.
like, yeah, you can opt in. You've got a place. This place that we found for this week, it it caught my eye because it had a ramp in the front, and
Ooh.
it's just a little old house. I think for a chair much larger than mine, it might not work, but it does have this kind of interesting bathroom where there's a door from two sides, and there's a ramp to get in, and there are grab bars in the shower. So clearly somebody with a disability lived here, but you can't, where the toilet meets the shower, you can't pass through in my chair. So I
Okay.
can access the shower from the bedroom, and I can access the toilet and the sink from the living room.
That's what you call a true workaround because you got to go
Yeah.
around to get to either one.
Literally.
I had a very accessible unit in Athens, Greece last year, and it was advertised as such. My daughter found it. She was traveling with me and literally could roll everywhere in that entire space. And it was gated. There was a gate that closed in behind our car. It was a dream vacation. It wasn't even vacation, but it was like would have been a dream destination is what I should say because
Yeah.
everything was so accessible for me.
Yeah, I was in Greece for a month last summer and left as many ratings as I could on the app in Athens. And I think, yeah, Athens was extremely accessible.
Yeah, I was impressed because for such a historic city, I did not expect that. But anyway, we have another person here. So before we
Yeah.
dig deeper into all the issues, because I'm excited to talk about them, Joe Foster, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm Joe Foster. We started this app on the back of a napkin because we kept hearing from people that they did not know where places were accessible and the information that they were getting was bad. And it was just it even just now watching you say it was so amazing we had a place. That is the feeling that we get every time a new review pops up where it's like, oh, now somebody will be able to get excited about going here and going there and being out and about without being anxious about being able to get into a place.
I have visited
Mhm.
places and forgotten to use the app and then couldn't figure out like how to go back and put a pin and those kinds of things. And I'm sure there's a way to do it. It was tired, whatever. Anyway, but it makes me want to go back to those places just so that I could use your app to tell everybody how great the accessibility was. So there's a place I will tell you, this is the coolest place in Niagara, Canada. So that's about an hour and a half drive for me. That lets you go into the old electric plant. There's
Ooh.
a mine shaft that is now an elevator that takes you all the way down to the river level, and there's about a half a mile walk. That's all the old tunnels, which was the old like water escape, right? You get to the bottom and there's a little patio type area, and you're at the base of the falls. It's super cool. The entire thing was rollable. I was so excited. It was pretty cool.
Cool.
My friend who doesn't have wheels was had to stop several times to relax at the little benches because she was exhausted. I'm like, my battery's full. Let's keep going. So you said this was on the back of a napkin. Can you tell us like when did y'all think about this? And how did you actually get this? Oh, first of all, tell us about the app because we haven't even got to there yet. People listening are like,
Yeah.
what are you talking about? So tell us about the app and then a little bit of the history of it.
Hey, so the app is a community-driven mapping tool that people can use to update the status of accessibility at locations worldwide for free, um, anywhere they want to. Trying to
It's
think of anything that I'm leaving out. It
it's really
allows people
cool.
to leave. It allows people to leave pictures and video, as well as it leads them through questions. So one of the things we always try to highlight is Roll is an app that anyone can use, able-bodied, all the way down to, children can use this app. If they can read and answer questions, they can use the app. But it's really just a way to get information about places. We ran some focus groups and tried to figure out what was important to people, and we're constantly tweaking the questions all of the time to try to match what people are telling us. But yeah, it is just a way to actually get real information. We found a lot of places don't know what they don't know. And so we kind of breadcrumb them along for, nope, if it has 4 steps to get inside, that does actually make it
Inaccessible.
unaccessible.
Yeah.
Inaccessible, yeah. Um, but we started the app. I went to this small town in Colorado called Breckenridge, and I was working with the U.S. Paralympics at the time, and we tried to take some athletes to dinner. And we thought that we had done a really good job of picking a place, and nobody's wheelchair would fit in the elevator that took them down to the bathroom. And there was 2 steps to get inside, and um, came back and just saw this vital need and was amazed that it didn't already exist, that nobody had really done this in the way that we thought it needed to be done, and talked a friend into starting it and made a version that looked terrible and worked even worse.
That's how it starts.
But
That's okay.
yeah, learned a lot along the way, and our goal is to just continue to listen to what people want and what people need, and we feel like if we do that, then we'll have done okay.
You still have the napkin. I
No.
thought you'd be like,
That
it's framed. Look right here, Michelle. It's in a frame.
that will be
No.
very cool if you still have it.
He's like, I thought she was going to ask the hard hitting question. She asked about the napkin. How long ago was it that you started scribbling down the ideas and putting things into production?
Gosh, almost 4 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a real version that sort of worked that we launched 2 years ago. And then we just made our one of our biggest updates, wherein we switched mapping providers because we realized that our mapping provider said that they had a lot of locations and a lot of places in the map available, and that just wasn't true. It was like one out of every three locations, especially in rural areas, was just
Well,
you
and
could search
outside of
for
the
it and it
United
just didn't
States.
exist.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just didn't exist. So we just switched um, to a very large mapping service that rhymes with Schmoogle. And so if you find it in
I've
that
heard of
app,
them.
in that map, um, it will show up in Roll, which is very, very cool. Now there's a lot of opportunities. We just talked to somebody about rating bus stations and bus stops and transit stops and things like that. And we thought, oh gosh, how are we gonna? Maybe they'll drop a pin and a picture and all this stuff. And you go into the map, and if you search in a specific way, every single bus stop in Colorado pops up. So
That's cool.
we're working on all of the things all of the time.
And you didn't have to make Rachel go and stop at every one of those stops to put a pin, right?
No.
No.
That would be
Okay,
that
good.
would be a
Glad to
bridge
hear
too far.
it. I
Maybe
think
she would
Rachel,
love to do that in Europe. Maybe in Europe you'd love to
maybe,
do
yeah.
that. And yeah, it's
Yeah.
The elevators in Italy are ridiculously small, by the way.
yeah,
Every single
yeah.
one of them was difficult to navigate. But anyway, that's another story. Everything, the infrastructure in Europe is so old that things being retrofitted to try to fit without, anyway, long stories. But Rachel, I want to ask you, as somebody who uses wheels outside of my house, I can become incredibly frustrated sometimes. And I have found some cities to be much better than other cities in general. And I have found some locations, obviously, to be better than other locations. Uh, in 2022, I wrote an article called 5 Days Without a Shower because of my horrific experience at a conference where I can't lift my legs to get into a bathtub, but it was a handicapped accessible, as their terminology is, right? Room, paddle to get in and out of the doors, paddle didn't work. Shower didn't work. Like the most accessible part of it was I could turn around in my scooter and I didn't have to back out into the hallway again, right? Um, got stuck in the bathroom in the lobby. Not a single door had a paddle on it in public spaces. It was one of those just horrific experiences. As a result of that, and writing that article, in WordPress alone, things have changed. So that article spurred handbooks, like a section in the handbook for WordCamps to do better. And every major WordCamp has contacted me, and I don't mind doing the work for them. I often say you shouldn't ask the underrepresented person to do your homework for you. In this case, this is my passion, so I don't mind doing the work with them to know how high countertops should be so that I don't feel excluded, how wide aisles should be in the cafeteria, so that I don't feel excluded. Should they remove chairs at every table so that somebody can just roll up? Like all of those things have now been included because of one article, because I have a big voice in our community. I love that your app makes it so that people don't necessarily have to have a big voice. They can just log in and make some statements and make things clearer there. What has your experience been in dealing with, or I don't even know what I'm trying to ask exactly, but has this app made it so that people are looking at their own facilities and trying to be more accessible? Have you had that experience at all, like with people that you talk to?
Um, sorry, let me clear my throat. Yeah, some. I think not yet to the magnitude that we would hope. Like we really hope that this app will become one of social pressure of businesses wanting to do better. We always say we don't really want to be a Yelp. We don't want to be associated with like negative reviews. But the truth is, it's like, well, if it's inaccessible, it's inaccessible. And that information is for our community so that they know where to not waste their time or spend their money, right? When there's plenty of businesses out there doing good work that get it. I think from the app, because we're still growing, and one day we hope to really be a household name that really comes with that. But it will come with conversations in person. I'll just be like, if you just had a trash can that wasn't a push pedal, this bathroom would be 100% accessible.
Right.
Simple things. So I think most of that just comes still from like face-to-face advocacy. But we have, there a handful of stories of places making small changes. We have some good friends at a brewery that have just moved into a new space, and their opening week, we got to come in and kind of just roll through and say what was and wasn't working. And when they first took over the space, there weren't bumpers in the parking lot. So the cars didn't know where to stop. So they would come over the sidewalk that you needed to ramp into the entrance. And then there was also a bike rack there. So I have this picture that's been up on the internet where the bike tire and the car bumper overlap the sidewalk from the accessible spot to the door. And, immediately, well, first I had to come out. I was like, I can't get to my car.
Yeah.
Since I've been here, I've been blocked in.
Yeah, it's not that you couldn't gain access. You couldn't get out.
I couldn't get out. I guess I live here now. Could I get a free beer? No. But the next time I was there, the bike rack had already been moved. So there are plenty of people out there that really are listening. Just this weekend, I stayed in 2 different hotels, and one was like a really a nicer, higher end, relatively speaking, new hotel. They just opened in July, and in Denver, and just a hotel that was like really beautiful, had a lot of art, had really thought things through. But then they got into the bathroom and in the accessible room, and there was a towel tower, like a square tower blocking the lateral entrance to like the toilet, like just a movable thing. I drug it out into the hall. It's just like silly things that they just hadn't thought through. Of course, like the mirror, I still couldn't even see myself in the mirror and at the sink. And then I get into the shower. It's late. We're really tired. And the shower's a roll in, and it's got a bar, but no built-in shower chair. Like, it's a brand new hotel, no built-in shower chair. I call down and request the chair. It takes them nearly an hour to get it up there because they're literally running from accessible room to room to try to find this white plastic bench that doesn't match the vibe at all, right? Everything else is really nice. This is a bottle with there's a nice bottle of bourbon and a mini bar, kind of hotel room. And then this rickety shower bench that wasn't even safe. Honestly, it was a little uneven. There was no call button. Fortunately, my transfers are pretty simple, but I'm thinking about friends of mine I know that have fallen in showers at hotels.
So scary.
And had you're alone, you're naked, you're vulnerable, and now you're having to call the front desk to get peeled off the floor. That's a real situation that happens to folks. But then conversely, I stayed at a Super 8 down here in Trinidad Sunday night, and it was still a plastic bench, but it was the one that kind of comes over the lip of the bathtub. So it makes for a really easy lateral transfer. The mirror, everything in the bathroom is perfect. No notes, right?
I love,
with a call button right by so this older, not great Super 8 had it dialed, and this new hotel just missed the mark. And
maybe the new hotel thought if you drank enough of the bourbon, you wouldn't care if you had a shower.
Wouldn't care. They were really open and receptive to feedback, which we know is not always the case. They did comp us a nice breakfast the next morning.
That's good.
So we'll take it.
Sure.
But what very long answer to your question is, people are willing to make change, and I do think it is a know better, do better. But at the same time, it's fatiguing because, well, we've had 34 years, right?
Yeah.
34 years of the ADA, which is still also just the bare minimum, but people never think it's just like an afterthought. Say, maybe we should have somebody with a disability come through this space and see if the design actually works, test the user experience.
Such a simple solution too, really. I mean, crazy. I yeah, I've had similar situations. I think part of the problem is people don't know what they don't know. And so we try to educate them, and then they still don't do better sometimes. And I think of I was in Thailand last year, and some of these I was at another Word Camp Asia, and some of the companies have these parties outside. You know, you've been to conferences, they have their little shindigs. And because I had written that um tell all or whatever you want to call it, the expose on inaccessibility in the WordPress community, these companies wanted to invite me, so they made sure, to their knowledge, that these places were accessible. And so I get this frantic DM on my Twitter account from one of these companies saying, Michelle, they told me it was accessible. It's not accessible. I am so sorry. There's no way for you to be able to attend unless you're willing to leave your wheelchair on some random pier and get on the and let us help you onto a boat and off a boat. And I said, that's not something that I'm comfortable with, of course. Um, and he said, when he got there, he said, I thought you said it was accessible. And the guy said to him, what, she can't do 3 steps? He said,
Oh my God.
no, she can't. She's in a wheelchair. Of course she can't do 3 steps. What part of 3 steps seems accessible to you? And so we still have those kinds of issues happening. My goal with our podcast and other things that I do is to educate so people will learn and do better. Because if you don't know, you don't know. I get that, right? There are ways to educate yourself, absolutely. But at the very least, listen to people who need accessibility to tell you what you have to do to help make some change. I have been um, asking all the questions. I'm going to let Samah ask some questions so she's not just a pretty face. She does all the research. Like, she's the one
No,
that'll
but
pull
you're
out all the
so
research.
passionate about it. You're so passionate. I'm just enjoying. Yeah.
I do have a quick anecdote to
I
add to that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I do want to go back to that and say there's so much nuance in this space, and
Yeah,
that's why, as we learn more, it's like picture and video are so important because even
yeah,
within the community, you can have the exact same diagnoses, but a completely different experience. And
absolutely.
there's a great story. There's a restaurant in New York, and I'm gonna forget what the name is, but they are owned by a couple who are both in chairs. And so the writer went into the bathroom. She was in a chair. She was so excited about it, but somebody had placed candles underneath the grab bars. And so when she went to use the grab bar in the bathroom, the grab bar was hot to the touch. And even for people, you're owned by, you've got somebody who is there who is utilizes a chair full time, and still sometimes you're trying to make all the aesthetics work, and there's a lot of nuance in this space. And so it's a lot of
Yeah.
listening, or hey, also being open for some feedback
Hmm.
and what we can do in each space. And a lot of times in that instance, it's like just move the candles and everything is fine.
Everything's good. Yeah.
No brainer. Yeah, I was going to add that, in part, people don't know better and do better because you don't see as many people with disabilities out in the community because places are
Mhm.
inaccessible. So you don't get
Good
this
point.
opportunity to interact as much with people with disabilities. You think about underrepresentation. People think it's like, oh, it's 1% of the population. No, 12% of the population has a mobility impairment, right? That's one
Yeah.
in 8 people. So there's this, kind of this fallacy that people don't with disabilities don't really exist. So we don't need to make accommodations. So they don't come here. So we don't see them. And so places remain inaccessible. So it's, I think that narrative has really changed with social media
Mhm.
and disabled voices being amplified in recent years. And I hope that we have a new wave kind of disability rights
Yeah.
is on the horizon.
I also want to piggybacking on that, kind of go back to what Joe said too, because your wheelchair experience and my wheelchair experience are two different experiences. I'm using a mobility scooter that has a deck in front of me and handlebars and a basket, so I can't just pull up to a table. I
Mhm.
can't just sit and I have to either pivot my seat, which is then my legs don't touch the floor because of the height, or I have to transfer to a chair, which I can do, right? That's to me is the easiest thing to do, but that's not necessarily other people's experiences. And the summer I was at a conference up in Canada, and this was a beautiful brand new facility. Paddles on the doors. They had separate um, accessible bathrooms with a paddle on the door that I could paddle to lock it. Like it was beautiful. It was not easy to turn my scooter around in because it was still maybe like if I had a zero turn, right? Like in like a wheelchair, I would have had a better accessible. But the soap dispenser was too high for somebody seated to reach the soap. And I thought, I want to wash my hands too. So my feedback was if you do this next year in the same space, bring soap so that we can at least have it on the countertops. I mean, $1 a bathroom, right? Is not a big deal. But also they had no elevator to the second floor. So this is a brand new building. The green room for speakers, I was a speaker, was on the second floor. So I didn't get to have the same experience that other speakers had either. And so I think like that I would have given them a pretty decent rating, except for those two little things, right? So I would have been able to tell people about that if I had remembered to use the app. When I go back next year, I promise I will. Sama, what questions do you have?
Yeah, thank you. Me, I want to go back to the app because I'm really interested to know more about it. You said it's going worldwide. Is it multilingual, the app? And what is your long-term goals for the app? And how do you see the app evolve more and more and make the community better? And if there's any excitement news you want to share about the app, is any something you want love to share in the you're doing in the app in the near future?
Those those like
A
six
little bit.
questions. I'm never going to be able to remember any of this.
No, I ask
World
first.
domination.
Yeah,
That's the first question.
I
World
love that.
domination.
No, but
You need to pet a cat while you say that though.
Yeah, yes.
Yes.
Going to
Mm.
take over the whole world. The
me,
app is currently in over 40 countries.
Over
Right
50.
now, we're just in
wow,
Spanish and English, but by the end of October, we just are working with a company that does translations. So by the end of October, we hope to be in at least 12 languages.
wow,
Like
that's
10 more
impressive.
languages. Got to do math in my head. 12 language. That would equal 12 languages.
Nice.
Phenomenal. And Rachel, you said 50 countries.
Yeah, over 50 countries.
That's
Wow.
amazing.
It's really excited. It's, we thought we were just like, okay, we'll focus on Denver and some cities in the States, but then when you have a viral moment on the it takes on a life of its own. And because
Yeah,
it can be used worldwide, it is being used worldwide. And it's an exciting thing. We don't really take the time to sit back and just recognize what we've done, what this thing has taken on a life of its own. But when you can like zoom in and play around on the map and just go anywhere in the world and see reviews popping up, it's incredible.
that's awesome. So, what were the other five questions?
I, me, I was quiet for a long time, and now like just ask all of them. It's for me. I want to see how do you see the app evolving to better support the community, and is there something excitement you want to share about the app? Now you said earlier that it's going to go to be translated in more languages, and Rachel said it's like 50 countries. Are you going to expand more? What is the plan for the app?
Well, I mean, the app can be it can keep expanding at users will. But we're working on other features to better serve other disabled populations. I think right now the weighted score, the objective measure is really based on the physical location, because if you can't get in,
Yeah.
it's not accessible. But working on different ways, the community is really vocal, as we all know, and they definitely are quick to tell us what people really want to know, like, is it service dog friendly? Are there adult size changing tables? Can we have information about the lighting and the noise level? So we really do want to incorporate that, like make the app more accessible to folks with colorblindness. And as quickly as we can chip away at these things, we are. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah.
That is
Yeah,
cool.
it's it's difficult because this is we are very passionate about this, but more than a passion project, we want this to turn into something bigger. This is such a vital thing, and we're in this weird space where if we were smaller, we would still qualify for like free tiers of information. And because we are big enough, now things cost money.
Mhm.
Um, and so, development time costs money.
Yeah.
Just the time involved and the experts involved who help us kind of do these new features. We're just as impatient as everyone else is with what we want to see. It's one of those things from like, if I could snap my fingers and immediately change everything in the app to include the noise ratings for these locations and how bright it is in these locations, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that would be amazing. But it all takes the nuance and trying to figure out how to best display it in the map and all of those things. So um we ask for patience, but we are
So,
I
how
was
are
just
you?
gonna say
Go ahead. This is what happens when you're recording things. That's okay. Continue.
No.
Um, so we are raising money at the moment. We are
Yeah.
crowdfunding, so that people in the community can own a piece of the app, and it is not. It's kind of like a Kickstarter. It's called WeFunder. It's
Mhm.
specifically for these things, so people have the ability. It's WeFunder / Roll Mobility, and you can own a piece of this app.
We'll make
That's
sure to
awesome.
include that.
Then yeah, we'll definitely share the news about it because I think it's really important app and I think because Michelle and I we attend a lot of events. We travel a lot in Europe or outside of Europe and WordPress they're doing much and much better in the accessibility. They a lot of the organizers of event they share information for accessibility and I think adding information on this app, it will be also awesome. So definitely, I will share the news in Netherlands and in every place I can share. And if we will definitely share the link of the information you shared, also we can share it in the post and with everyone we know.
So I first saw you on TikTok, as I mentioned. I think you're doing a great job, by the way, with the videos and things that you're doing there, not just about the app itself, like trying to, explain what it is, but showing people what accessible versus inaccessible means. I think that's great. I love all the work that you're doing there. I have the app on my phone. I mean, it's literally right there. And I am excited to use it more than I have been, I promise. It's a habit, right? You have to learn, you have to ingrain yourself in these habits. Um, it is not it's free. The app is free. Just download it in the App Store. And you are not asking me to put money in through the app, and I'm not seeing ads displayed on the app. So, unless I'm mistaken, and you have ads in there somewhere, but I haven't seen any. Um, how do you intend to keep it not only physically accessible but monetarily accessible, because there are a lot of people in the disabled community who are living on very low income, and so an app like this is perfect for them, but to have a monthly or whatever input to that is not necessarily sustainable. So how do you intend to keep this rolling forward, no pun intended or pun intended, without asking people to actually pay to use the app?
It actually, it's exciting to hear you say that because we really tried to make the ads as classy as possible and not mess
So
with the
there
user
are.
experience.
That's okay
So
then.
there are some ads that are
That's
there.
okay.
And then we are also actively looking for tourism boards. We know that
Oh, good
there
idea.
are states and there are cities that really care about accessibility, that are really excited about showcasing how accessible and the work that they've done. And so we just, I don't know if I can even talk about this. We just worked with the state that is working with us to highlight the accessibility
Oh,
and
I love
tourism
that.
in their state. But it's a non-negotiable for us. It was from the very, very beginning to be free forever for this community. We understand that there's enough barriers. We don't need to be gatekeeping this
Yeah.
information. And there was a couple of things on that napkin, and one of them was
Free.
this is not something.
Yeah.
There will always be a free, version or free a way to access this that is not gate kept.
We have in the
Rich.
past had sponsors here for underrepresented in tech. The only sponsors on our website now are people who have given us their software so that we can use it for our website. It's important to us that any sponsors that we have had in the past, we're lucky that we don't have to do that anymore. Um, but any sponsors we've had in the past, we made sure that we were vetting them so that they weren't using us to say, look how we are so interested in underrepresentation, but they might be a company that literally has, 2% underrepresented population in their entire company. So vetting that is not easy. Are you also vetting your advertisers to make sure that they actually like practice what they are helping you preach?
We're in this funny space where, we feel like the community, we listen to the community, and we have not had somebody, come to us and say, "Hey, we saw an ad for something on the app and then we had a
For
terrible
running
experience with
shoes.
it." Yeah, exactly.
Although
Although Rachel, you do tell me quite often that one of the nice things about being in chair, shoes last a really long time.
They really do.
I can attest to that as well.
But
And there
we
are there
have,
are some shoes that are more accessible than others.
It's
That
true.
you don't have to
yeah,
tie, right? Like you can slip your feet into them. So I'm just saying,
that's
shoes
true.
aren't out of the question.
We've been really lucky. We just partnered with Logitech, and it was very obvious from the very beginning that they not only were interested in it, but were living it and excited about it. And you can tell when somebody's phoning it in. You can tell when somebody starts talking to you
Yeah.
about accessibility and really they don't really care. And we just did a partnership with them where they launched the app to their community and then said to them, at the end of this, for Persons with Disabilities Day, then whoever has left the most reviews will get some Logitech swag. And it's all
Oh,
internal.
cool.
They haven't really taken credit for it, which is also kind of a green flag.
Yeah.
But it's pretty obvious when you talk to people, the people that are just checking a box of, oh,
Mhm.
this is accessible, or are actually really excited about it and want to see more people out and doing things.
Yeah.
Rachel's got something to say, and I'm excited to
Well,
listen to it.
oh, well, mostly, yeah, we are in this kind of in-between space where right now some of the ads we're running are some of those like free Candy Crush kind of
Yeah.
ads that you do to kind of get the ball rolling. But the companies and that are reaching out to us are from the community, right? They see that we have this target audience, and it's, companies that do ramp installations or,
Hmm.
things that are relevant. So it's pretty easy to kind of say like, oh yeah, you're already doing work in this space and you
Hmm.
want to, like, you see that we have your target audience.
Yeah.
So it does kind of do some of that vetting on its own.
That's
Yeah.
nice. Because like if your idea of accessibility is you can come in through the kitchen, that's probably not the people that we want
Yeah.
advertising on a space. For
No.
sure.
No, I did want to go back to you. You talked about, right, like a lot of the videos that we do tend to be this like education between accessible and inaccessible. And thanks for saying that, because that's really what my goal is to really call in our allies, really do a lot of education about these are these are really simple things that would make a space accessible, but you keep putting physical barriers, right? A stack of high chairs in front of the door, like, come on. Um, but this is awesome thing that the app is doing because role is for everybody. I think we really have um, And Samah, to your question, what do we hope to be? I really hope that we're a catalyst for social change. I really hope that we're educating a broad enough section of society to say, hey, accessibility matters. Accessibility benefits everybody. Everybody benefits from clear pathways. That we're calling people in and bringing awareness that we've got now that we've got, I'll say, when I was in Europe, the infrastructure, yes, was not where maybe the infrastructure is here in the United States, but the social awareness is really far ahead.
True.
So the fact that like the museums were free, I didn't have to wait in line. I had a designated bathroom that maybe was like lock and key, but that ensured that nobody else was using it. There's that,
Right.
like in Europe, people without disabilities do not use things that were not designed for them.
Mm-hmm.
In America, that's not the case.
True.
My biggest soapbox and is just, if it's, especially like in bathrooms, if it's not for you, don't use it. And I wish we had that culture here. And I
Mm-hmm.
hope that the app is helping us get there.
Yeah, we
I
have the
had
European Accessibility Act, and they're doing a lot of laws. So next year, we are accessible. Our buses, train, it's for everyone with a chair. So everything is organized, but during next year there's a huge big movement, even government forcing companies who's hosting their websites in Europe to be accessible, not only the shop, not only the buses. And that's I believe that that's something Europe just doing at more advanced in the States or some countries. But I hope that will be also the same, because it's really important to talk about it and do something about it, not only talking about it. Yeah.
And there's an access card in Europe. Is that right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
I'll do the thumbs up to counteract that
Yeah, I
little
like
bubble.
this one. And now we're gonna make
yes.
it fun. So yeah, this
There it is.
Yeah. Um, I think I've heard people on the internet talk about having a card that allows them to access bathrooms throughout the
That's
country.
awesome. Yeah.
Which I'm sure is like a system that's not perfect and has its flaws, and then you like lose your card, forget your card, those kind of things. But they're thinking of it. They're thinking of
Yeah.
something.
I used a bathroom in the Frankfurt airport that was
Mm-hmm.
specifically for disabled and
It had
wheelchair
Hoyer
users.
lift in it.
I rolled in and I was like, it's either a jungle gym, a ropes course, or it's perfect. And I chose perfect.
Yeah.
There was so much equipment in there. I was almost like, I don't know where to look first, but it was better than Christmas morning. I swear. It was awesome.
But I did have the signage to get there wasn't great. I did
Yeah.
go to the to
Okay.
this to the regular bathroom in the Frankfurt airport, to the regular whatever.
Yeah, I
Um,
know.
and realized that there wasn't an accessible stall. And then I had to backtrack, push all the way
Yeah.
back down to find the accessible bathroom. So
I did not have my device with me. They didn't bring it up between flights for me, so I was at their beck and call with their wheelchairs. So, but they did dump me one place and then leave me for 4 hours where I couldn't actually go anywhere. I was stuck there,
Mm.
and then they moved my gate, so I had to find a way to get to the new gate. So that's another story altogether. But the bathroom was awesome.
once I got there, the bathroom was awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, we need to wrap it up soon. So I want to make sure we answered all of Samah's questions too. Is there anything else you'd like to tell us about the app? How do people find you how do they find you, the app? Is there a website where they can learn more about you and the funding process? Joe, go.
Yes. Yes, there is. Um, we are very easy to find. We're on both the Apple and the Google Play Store. Roll Mobility, ROLL Mobility. Funny part about the name, it was actually a placeholder name. We said, well, we'll figure out something better eventually. And Roll has kind of stuck. So, Roll Mobility, we're Roll Mobility on Instagram, on TikTok. We have a website that is also Roll Mobility. And so if you Google role mobility,
You'll find it. I'm
it will
following
take
you
you
in
to
all the
all of our
places.
things. Yeah.
And we'll be sure to put the links to those in the show notes as well. Rachel, anything else you'd like to add?
Man, we've really covered a lot here this morning,
For sure.
and that's fun. We really love a dynamic conversation versus just kind of our stale talking points. So thank you for highlighting us in a
Of
very
course.
fun, dynamic, and interesting manner.
Will you come back in a year so we can discuss the progress?
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Samah, any last thoughts from you?
Not at all. I wish you all of the luck, and hopefully it will grow more and more. And definitely we'll share the news about the app. Definitely. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, that's it for today. Thank you, everybody, for hanging in there with us. You can find us on YouTube. You can also find us on our website and all of the places where podcasts are. Just look for Underrepresented in Tech. Thank you both, Rachel and Joe. Thank you, Samah, for a wonderful week. We'll see everybody next week on Underrepresented in Tech. If you're interested in using our database, joining us as a guest for an episode, or just want to say hi, go to underrepresentedintech.com. See you next week.